Sounds ultimate. New update to the GT3 tyre model can be brutal, but is it too difficult for a beginner? This update has been controversial and it has split the community, with some loving it and others loathing it. In this video, I will prove to you that it is not impossible for beginners to get to grips with, and I will give you the tools you need to conquer your races in this update. 07, and welcome back to the channel. So for those of you who aren't actually aware of what 07 actually means, I've been asked this a few times, so I thought I'd quickly cover it. It's a space game greeting, so it's kind of it's a salute from me to you. That's all it is. So, right, on with the video. So let's talk about what's changed in this update, as it's far deeper than just a tyre model change. It's a change in how you must drive in this sim completely. But before we get to that, the footage in the background is me proving that even with the new tyre model, as a beginner, you can still put in good times with this update. Now, I'm not the fastest driver, I'm not fast at all, but every car followed the same timings within a margin. 150, 149 and 148 in 3 laps consecutively. Except in the Corvette, which I struggled to get below 149 around Imola so far. No idea why, I just feel like I'm ringing that car to death and just cannot get that below 149. Every car was taken direct from the pits on new, cold tyres, and you will see by my telemetry, I'm not holding back in the car on any lap, even the out lap. I drive an ultra wide, so I know you won't see my overlays, but every test was conducted within the same parameters. Always around Imola, always the same settings, always from the pits, cold, fresh tyres. Okay, so first let's start covering the changes. The biggest change you need to get your head around when it comes to this whole update really is the ABS, and don't worry, I'm going to help you out with that. ABS is no longer 1 being the least amount of ABS, 9 being the most amount of ABS, and somewhere in the middle is your happy place. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's far more complicated and far more nuanced when you first try to get your head around it. ABS is now broken down into 3 subsections. You have oversteer, you have balanced, and you have understeer. ABS 1 through 3 is your oversteer bracket, 4 through 6 is your balanced bracket, 7 through 9 is your oversteer. God damn it, understeer. Why do I keep getting that wrong? 7 through 9 is your understeer. Got it right this time. Once you start looking at that part, then you're a bit more on your way. It gets a bit further nuanced again. Within the 1 through 3 bracket, let's use that as the example. 1 is your least amount of ABS, 2 is a balanced approach within that oversteer bracket, and 3 is your most amount of ABS within that range. 4 is your least, 5 balanced, 6 the most, 7 least, 8 balanced, 9 most amount of ABS. Once you get your head around that, your ABS game is all sorted. So for a perfect example, ABS 3, that is your oversteer with the most amount of ABS. That is going to give you a shorter braking distance than ABS 4 or ABS 7 because you have more ABS activation. I think I've covered it. Yeah, I've covered it. We're good. So while traction control itself hasn't changed, how you use it needs to. You can no longer just slap on low TC and get away with it. You must approach things differently now. If you just drive and use the settings you did before the update, you're introducing a recipe for disaster. And I'll cover my recommendations more in a bit in this video. Slip angle. Slip angle allowances have now been heavily reduced, meaning you can no longer drift and slide your way around the track. However, it's not like us beginners were doing that in the first place, and if we were, chances are it was a mistake. What it does impact us though is rear grip. It's less. A lot less. And you need to drive a lot more carefully. The game has become more difficult, no one can deny that. Okay, so those are the main changes that pertain to us as beginners. But why are some people complaining, and why are some people affected more and some people are affected less? Now remember, this is just my opinion. It may not be yours, you may disagree with it. If you do, feel free to let me know in the comments. However, to me, the fast boys and girls are the ones that are affected the most. The ones who are sliding the car around the track to get the fast times. They're the ones this update really was targeting to try and stop that abusive behavior. They weren't targeting beginners like you or I. The others that are affected are the ones that can't, or more often, won't alter their driving approach to what the new model actually wants. But trust me, if you take time to learn what the car wants in this update, you'll be rewarded with a fantastic feeling sim. I absolutely love this new tyre model. I think it's brilliant. And I'm going to help you get there from the hours and hours of testing I've done. So how does the updated tyre model actually feel? Pretty deadly, right? That's what I think most of you will be saying. And you're correct, if you don't change your approach. I had exactly the same thought on day one, and it has taken hours of testing and playing to get me comfortable with the new tyre model. The front tyres certainly feel like they're carrying more grip, and the rotation is definitely better in all cars. The rear of the car, however, is far less stable on corner entry and corner exit, punished harder for hot, fast entries and or bad trail braking, with exit affected by impatience or over-eagerness to get back on the throttle, or just pure aggressive throttle inputs. Smooth inputs and patience is the aim of the game now, there is no way around it. Force feedback has improved, with understeer being far more prominent through your wheel now. Oversteer can be caught, but also sometimes your rear is overtaking your front before you even know what happened, so this is a little bit inconsistent. Now this doesn't always come from being aggressive on the throttle, it can come from simply touching a curb at high speed or looking at a curb the wrong way. Pujon exit on Spa is a perfect example of this. In my testing, the cars have varying degrees of impact from the update. The Ferrari and the McLaren, two of my former favourites, both feel harder to drive quickly than they used to, and seem to be far more impacted than the Corvette, which has gone from being my least favourite car in the game to one of my favourite cars. I don't know what changed in this update, but that car is glorious to drive now. The Porsche is back to being stunning, though it does suffer heavily from understeer. The front engine cars now feel the safest of the bunch, even to me, a mid-engine guy, especially one which I'll cover in a bit, which is the exception to all the rules that I'm going to be covering next. Okay, so what are my rules or recommendations for success? When you first get in the car, what would I change? Nothing. I would just go with the stock setup they give you. The traction control settings are actually pretty good, apart from in the Lexus, where if you are struggling because the car is actually a lot twitchier, I would just go up by 1 point on each of the 3 TC settings and you're probably going to be good to go. So brake bias is an even more deadly setting now, as when you push it more to the rear, you're introducing oversteer into a corner when rear grip is already reduced. So I'd recommend, to start with, you just keep it as it is, and then begin lowering it by 0.5% to 1% at a time, staying around the 50-50 mark to be safe. I'm not saying you should never touch this or never go below the 50-50, I just wouldn't when you first start out with the update until you're a bit more familiar with everything going on. ABS, I just set that to 9 to begin with, and you can look to lower that again when you're more comfortable with what's going on with the car, but remember the groupings and the subgroupings that we spoke about earlier in this video. Now if you're still getting to grips, just start out slow with stock settings, take your first lap very easily, kind of like you driving Miss Daisy. Push a little bit more on lap 2, then again on lap 3, and by lap 4 your tyres will be warm and you're off to the races again. But just be mindful of taking too much curb and not being smooth with your throttle and brake inputs, especially on those curbs as well. Even with warm tyres, hitting a curb incorrectly can and will spin you out. Okay, so why are we seeing so much oversteer and why are people having so many problems? Again, just my opinion. To me, it's a mixture of the reduced grip on the rear end, then also by the time you take into the fact that traction control induces oversteer, brake bias can induce oversteer, ABS can induce oversteer. Add all of those 4 elements together and you have a perfect storm of things that are going to slip your back end out like God knows what. Okay, but I don't want to keep the stock settings, I'm hearing you saying. So which settings would I change first? Remember, this is just my personal opinion. First, I would start with ABS. Find the setting that suits you most. It's more than likely going to be 6 or 9 to begin with. Once you've got that sorted and you're comfortable with how the car is braking, how the ABS is working, I then move on to brake bias. Now I know I said brake bias is deadly, but this is why I'm doing this second. You're already used to how the ABS is working, now we do brake bias. That will allow you to adjust how the car rotates going into a corner, so you've just tackled both elements of your entry. Once you've got that sorted, now it's time to start touching your traction control. Lower each setting down to a point where you're comfortable, starting with 1 point deductions at a time from the ones that you feel you need, or all 3 at once. TC slip is your friend here. Remember, the game or the model is now trying to reduce the slip that people were abusing. Doing this last will help you find the corner exit you're looking for, with ABS and brake bias controlling your entry up to the maximum rotation point, or the apex, with TC now helping you get on the power from the apex through the corner exit. Just a quick one from me, I completely forgot to do some sort of cheesy YouTuber stuff when it comes to this, so if you could do me a favour, if you could like the video, maybe think about leaving a comment and make this number down here go up by subscribing to the channel. I will restore that 15 to 20% grip that you've lost at the rear end in LMU, I promise. Okay, so next up is braking. So smooth trail braking has always been key to sim racing, however that is even more prevalent in this update. You can't just hold the brakes for too long going into a corner, or come off them too abruptly. That will not work in this update. If you do, you have a much higher chance of spinning out. I find that turn 1 on Imola is the best and perfect place to practice this. You come off the home straight, you've got to brake sharply to get round that corner. If you get a nice, fast, controlled entry whilst taking the curb properly, then you're good to go. If you're spinning out on entry, you're either braking too late, you're going too fast, or you're holding too long into the turn at too much power on the brake, or you're not smoothly coming off that brake. If you feel that back end skipping out a little bit too much, start looking at one of those. I can't emphasize enough just how important smooth trail braking is in this update. This is key for you to keep the back end under control. Okay, so what's this exception to the rule that I spoke about? Again, this is just my opinion, but that is the BMW. I don't know how this has happened, but the BMW is the safest car to drive at the minute. As you'll see on the screen, I immediately lower the traction control, the ABS, and the brake bias before even leaving the garage. And yet I still have no problems on the outlap. This car is, in my opinion, the safest car in the game right now for beginners. And so much so, it's actually my recommended car for you to start the game in. This is the only car that I'm comfortable with lowering the TC down by a couple of settings, lowering the ABS, and lowering the brake bias straight away, and I can still feel like I can push the car from the start on the outlap. Okay, so those are my recommendations for beginners, but what do I actually think about the update for LMU? Personally, I love it. I do. I think they've gone a little bit too far with the rear end grip. I do think that they probably need to back that off by 15 to 20% potentially. But overall, I think it's really, really good. However, when you start to really push and get time, just the fact that just looking at a curb wrong can kick your back end out, I don't think that's right, and I just think that's a bit too much. Having said that, the Lamborghini is just sex on wheels. That car not only looks amazing, it drives amazing, it sounds amazing, and it sounds like it's going to give you an eargasm. It's just that bloody good. The Lexus isn't my cup of tea. It's a fun enough car to drive that makes you feel like you're going slower than you actually are, so your times are actually going to be better than you think they're going to be, but it's not the sort of car for me. The new track is nice enough to drive, but the environment is just bland and boring. Now that's not a fault of Studio 397, it's the source material. The environment around the track just isn't that interesting. So overall, I say this is a step in the right direction, but we're not quite there with the Tyre model yet. I still think there's more refinement needed. It feels very much like the old iRacing Tyre model. So if you've raced iRacing before, you probably know what to expect with LMU, and you've probably got quite a small adjustment period. Actually switching between the two sims now is a lot easier than it used to be. So I've been Just Dave, reminding you all to keep it rubber side down, never give up, and remember, we do this for fun. So be kind to each other. Till next time, take care. Nailed it. Make this number down there. Can't get this right. So I've been Just Dave, reminding you all to keep it rubber side down, never give up, stay positive, and remember, we do this for fun. So look after each other. I never say look after each other. My God. I've been Just Dave, reminding you all to keep it rubber side down, never give up, stay positive, and remember, we do this for fun. So be kind to each other. I keep fucking up my outro. My God. So I've been Just Dave, reminding you all to keep it rubber side down, never give up, and remember, we do this for fun. So be nice to each other. 4 attempts? Really? So I've been Just Dave, reminding you all to keep it rubber side down. Remember, 5 attempts. My God.